up, everybody, and welcome to another MoGraph MoCast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris.
And this is DAT.
This is DAT.
Super excited to be here in Toronto. I love Canada. I am from Texas. We have a lot of Southern hospitality down there, and I have to say, there is lots of Southern hospitality here in Canada. I love it. It's like being back at home. Y'all are all so friendly. I feel like I can actually be myself here, which is nice. You know, I don't have to have that tough outer shell, you know. As I normally have, yeah. So make sure when you're talking, you talk next to the mic. Come on, everybody. We're on live stream. So if you're going to make fun of me, please make fun of me within like 6 to 12 inches on the mic. All right. We've got an amazing panel today of just some awesome experts in MoGraph and 3D animation, and we're super excited to have them here. Let's start off over here. On this side, if you'll introduce yourselves, and we'll go down the row. Introduce yourselves.
All right, I'm Nick Denboer from smearballs.com. It's a hardcore porn site. No, it isn't. It's I don't even know what kind of site it is, but that's my animation site. I do a lot of music videos, advertising projects, weird animation. You can check it out at smearballs.com. Just NSFW.
My name is Victor Dimitrov. I do work under the name Weight of Thought. It's my own company, and work for Double Negative, a couple of VFX studios, and just a big fan of robots, mech design, any kind of sci-fi stuff. So been doing that for a very long time.
He's got his own work tattooed on his body. That is dedication
so
right
like
there.
All my artwork, all my concept design stuff. Been doing it for a really long time, and yeah, it's fun shit. Like, Cinema 4D is great, guys.
I'm Andre Otley. I'm a creative director here in Toronto at the immersive entertainment company Secret Location. We're opening a venue in the Distillery District called Illuminarium. Go check it out once it's open, hopefully next week. And yeah, I've been using Cinema 4D for a really long time. I do a lot of things that are not motion graphics in it. So, yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Geneva Hines, and I'm a motion designer and illustrator based out of Toronto. I also recently graduated from TMU, formerly known as Ryerson, for media production, which is really cool. I really enjoyed the program. Yes, sir. And my main style would be highly illustrative work with a lot of colors. I love color.
What up, what up? My name is Jonathan Wimbush, and I'm the creator of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They just don't know. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I worked on Iron Man 1, so they just don't know I'm the creator of it. But yeah, just happy to be here, and thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
My name is Noseman, and I do God's work. Thank you.
I glazed over my stuff because I always like to get straight into a presentation. But yeah, my name is Chris Schmidt from Rocket Lasso. I've been using Cinema 4D for 23 years now, since version 6, although I think he beats me by a little bit. Yeah.
So he was on the beta for Cinema back in like '86.
What before it was called Cinema.
Yeah.
I first saw Cinema 4D in 1997. How old was everyone back then?
I was not born.
Well, how many people weren't born yet at that point? Because I know there's at least a couple people, yeah.
Nice. That's what I like seeing. I like seeing the newbie motion designers. That's good. You know, after the pandemic, the first big event that I went to was Motion Plus Design in LA, and there were so many young people, and I was like, oh man, I'm the old boomer now. I don't know what to do, you know? But it's great to see so many more younger people getting up into this industry. So if you know a younger motion designer, mentor them. You know, I think that's great. Mentorships, especially in this industry, are very important.
Tell them not to use Blender.
All right, what should we start with, Chris? You got any topics?
I do have a topic. Just chatting with some people outside, there's a lot of people who are pretty new to the industry, and I just thought some general advice about networking would be super helpful.
I think that's fantastic. I'll start it off personally because networking. What?
Schmoozy Matt.
Ah, here comes Schmoozy Matt. honestly, networking to me has been the most important part of this entire motion graphics journey for me, even running the live events. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for going to events such as like NAB and SIGGRAPH and local meetups like this. We started running our own local meetup, DFWC4D, in Dallas, and it's great to be able, you may not realize how many local people are actually around you, but there is a really big group of people. So with that in mind, and here I'm going to do my sales pitch, we actually, a big push for community I felt was needed, and so we're actually in the process of building a community site specifically for doing motion graphic meetups and promoting yourself and stuff like that. So make sure and look out for that. But
I swear I wasn't setting him up for that.
I do appreciate the setup. I will gladly take it. Trust me, I'll find a couple other ways in order to push the website again. But yeah, I would not be where I am. We would not be touring with Maxon without our very first NAB we went to, and we got to meet Paul and Matthias, two of the biggest names in our industry as far as like community engagement and building up this community. We can't say enough about how great they have been to do this, along with Maxon. And yeah, one thing led to another, and here we are now. I think, and you presented at Maxon because we met.
Yep.
Yeah, and you presented at Maxon because we met. And then, yeah, all of y'all. Y'all all owe it to me, is what I'm saying. What are y'all thoughts on community? Go for it.
Hey guys. So I actually, I lived here in Toronto for a really long time, and I was in the motion design industry, the VFX industry, and I ended up going to one of these events, and that's where I met Nick for the first time. And he was one of the first people to invite me to go to NAB and check it out and meet some of the other artists there. And when I went there, like, the beautiful thing was if you had built up enough of a portfolio, you'd be meeting other artists that could kind of, what's the term here? Like, level you up a little bit. And so, met this dude over here. He introduced me to Mike Winkleman, Beeple, Matthias, and from there, they invited me to present and do this kind of stuff. And I just feel like it's very important that you go to these events because some like the more basically the really talented artists go to this thing, and they can definitely help you out and introduce you to the people that can level you up in your career. Because nowadays, instead of working in Toronto, I live in Montreal, and a lot of my work comes from the States. And I think for Toronto artists, especially,
get closer to the mic.
Sorry, for Toronto artists,
he was getting relaxed there. I had to.
Sorry, guys. I'm
stressing
back
back
nervous,
out,
as you can tell, like doing this. But for Toronto artists, especially, like it's very important that like you kind of branch out from Toronto. There's an industry here, but it's a lot bigger in the States. And if you're looking for competitive pay, it's very important that you reach out. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping off a little bit because that brings up an interesting. I never thought about it that way. In the U.S. or whatever, we always talk about going and working remotely for a specific studio or something, versus how is it here in Canada, trying to get work down in the States versus work here.
So I think when we work here in Toronto, we think that it's very insular. So we just basically take jobs from small studios to small studios, then working our way up to like bigger like VFX industries. But it's still relatively small here. I think when the light bulb hit was basically, I guess, finding other artists that are also getting all their work from the States and making American money, but in Canada. And the conversion rate is fantastic.
0.76, yeah.
And that's like a.
I had to look it up last night while we were at dinner. I was like, how much am I paying?
And like it's a really good strategy to do it. Like I remember just reaching a ceiling here in Toronto and kind of being like, I know that I've got the skill sets to do this kind of work. I know that the skill sets are there, the talent is there, but I'm just reaching a ceiling in terms of pay. And that's when I started to look more and more into the States. And I was considering moving, but that's in and of itself a process. But to be able to kind of live here, because I love the people here in Canada. Like Canada's amazing, but the pay is still, there is a barrier. And so when you're able to kind of get clients from the States, live here, especially in Montreal, which is even lower rent than like Toronto, and like a what I would say.
I heard some grumblings when you said that.
Yeah. It's a nice. I like Montreal better than Toronto. And
Could you tell?
Oh, all right, you're out. You're out. Get out.
I've lived here. So I lived in Toronto for about 27 years, and then recently moved. But it's just like a different, slower way of living. But also, when you're getting like the clients that you really like, and you're doing the work that you really want, you also want to live where you really want to live. And I find that in Toronto, we have like a hustle culture. We're always kind of grinding to the top, trying to figure our way through like kind of like a maze to get to our career path. But I think I guess the perspective I'm trying to say is that it's not always going to be here. If you can look to the States, if you can kind of try and find different studios to work remotely with, you're going to jump over a lot of people fairly quickly, at least in terms of pay. And if you've got the talent to back it up, compete in America. You'll have a better time with it, and the opportunities will start blowing up for you just because there's more of an industry there for it. There's more pay being thrown around. There's more clients being thrown around. Everyone's just passing around work, especially when you go to these events. Like, you know.
Nick,
This guy's a traitor here, man. Come on. Stand up for your country, man. No, it's true. All my clients are American too, but
Nick used to work for Conan O'Brien, by the way.
Yeah.
So like he's the
ultimate turncoat
yeah,
here.
Exactly.
But no, what I was going to say is I find the community thing, even going to events like this or even online communities like the MoGraph Slack channel and stuff like that, for me is more about meeting other people that are doing the same thing as me so we can learn from each other and help each other. Like I call Noseman up all the time when I have problems and can't figure something out. Same with Chris. And my buddy TJ over there, he hits me up, so I'm his guy. So like, I mean, it's like, and Joe over there, we figure out Houdini stuff together. Like some of this stuff's really hard to figure out, and if there's no tutorial online, you kind of need to know people. If you're solo and you don't have a community to reach out to, it can be really hard.
I want to interject and add to what...
He's going to disagree.
I don't disagree. I want to disagree. Oh, close. I want to disagree, which is my baseline. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to agree. So this applies what Nick did. I met Nick once or twice, and Nick came out and asked the question. And that's what created our engagement. Since then, he did me some favors, I did him some favors. I've got some beautiful printed photographs and all that. What I want to say is that although most artists have imposter syndrome and all that, and if you're a good artist, chances are you're a sensitive human being. That's why I'm not an artist, right? You have to step outside your comfort zone. Present your work. It doesn't matter how you feel. You have to understand this. I do not care, because this is my point of view, I do not care if your work sucks. If you want to move forward, you have to step outside your comfort zone and show your work to other people, because chances are your work is much better than you think it is. And I don't know how you're going to do it. Therapy, friends, get drunk, drugs. I don't care how you're going to do it. You have to step outside of that, safe zone of thinking about your work in a particular way. No, because at the end of the day, the world needs you more than you need the world. You have to put your work out there. There are studios that need your talent. And as long as you're not, if you're not comfortable with what you do, you're probably underselling yourselves, and at the end of the day, you're not going to provide people that need your help and are willing to pay, sometimes quite well. So don't be shy. Again, how you're going to do it, I can't tell you how. For me, it comes naturally. I just walk up and speak my mind. In Canada, that doesn't go well most of the times. I'm generally rude, and I don't care about that. I'm not doing it on purpose, but I will offer my opinion. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm advising you to don't stop where you feel comfortable. Step outside that, and you're going to have more connections. You're going to spread the word around, and that is my advice. Try. It's not easy, but you have to do it, both for relationships and for showing your work out there. Okay, so if anything,
I 100% agree with that. And sometimes you really have to get outside of your comfort zone, but you will be surprised at how many opportunities come up because you get outside of your comfort zone to either meet people or show off your work. I remember, Vic, the first time, I want to say it's the first time you came to NAB, you were showing your demo reel to everyone.
Yeah.
Anyone who would see it, you're like, hey, check this out. Hey, check out some of my work.
The thing was, like, everyone kind of just, they get in circles, and then everyone's just showing, like, the newest thing that they're working on, and it was like, oh, sweet, I can totally fucking do this. And I just, like, went in, I was like, here's, like, some of this newest thing that, like, I worked on. And the beautiful thing was, when I went to those things, it was, like, at a point when I was ready to kind of show off my work. There was, like, I worked on, like, a personal project. I did, like, I'm a 3D generalist by trade. Did all the concept design for, like, the spaceship, animated, did, like, the astronaut, and it's like, kind of like a rite of passage for any Octane or, like, Cinema 4D user, use an astronaut, make something like that. But, like, did that thing, animated it, did all, like, the grass moving, did all the concept design work for it, put it together, and I was like, oh, sweet, like, when I get there, at least, like, to the people that I thought were super above me, I'll have something to show them that looks super, super cool. And when I showed them, it was kind of like this feeling of, you felt almost like vindicated, like, oh, sweet, they actually think the thing that I think is cool is just as cool. And really quickly, like, what ended up happening was I showed it to this guy. We went to, like, a different conference together. Then David Ariev, through, like, Twitter or something like that, saw some of my work. And
Sorry, I gave you the bunk one.
David Ariev basically saw some of my astronaut work or, like, some of my concept designs, like, and he slid into my DMs, was like, you should come to NAB. I want to introduce you to some people. And when I went there, I see Nick. Nick's presenting over at Maxon. I was happy to see him because I'd met him maybe like 3-4 weeks prior to that. And he's like, hey, like, do you have your phone on you? I want to show your work to somebody. And he grabbed it and then showed it to Mike Winkleman. And Mike Winkleman just kept asking me questions about,
for those
like,
who don't know.
How are you doing this? Like, how'd you do that thing? Like, how'd that work out? And as that happens, Matthias goes by, who's the guy that runs Maxon's presentation wing, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he's like, this is super cool. Do you want to present? I was like, yeah, totally. And it happened so quick like that. And you think that it's just a thing in passing, but he sits down with you, he talks to you, and the entire time you're thinking, it'd be so cool if I got to present. And 3 months later, he just messaged me out of the blue. He's like, we're presenting, like, in 3 weeks, let's go. And he invites you to do the thing. And really quickly from there is how we all basically made friends, you know? And I was always just one of those kids that was just watching, like, the YouTube tutorials. And back in the day, you had Grayscale.
I still
Gorilla.
am.
You had Grayscale Gorilla, Video Copilot, Chris Schmidt's tutorials on Grayscale. There was EJ. Oh yeah, EJ Hassenfrost, who's like, it sucks that guy's not here.
I know.
Man.
He's missing out.
But you see these people that you just watch them on YouTube and you gain so much information from them. And when you meet them, you're kind of like, you want to say hi and you want to be, like, super nice to them, but also you're super nervous because you don't want to look like a dumbass. But you go up and you just basically go, hey, you really helped me with my career. And they're so nice to basically, they're so inviting as they talk to you. And from there...
Except for Nose Man.
Yeah. Facts. But they're so inviting, and then they introduce you to other people within the community because it's so small. I think, like, we have this idea that, like, it's a bigger industry than it is, but in reality, there's very few people within it that are, like, at least standing out, and everyone else is just helping each other out. There's so many people putting out tutorials. There's so much, like, good work out there, and I think when you're working for studios, I think you also have, like, a little bit of a limit as to what you can showcase. So I would also highly suggest anyone doing this field does their own personal projects and personal work and make sure that they do that kind of stuff, because if you want to showcase it, you have infinite freedom to do that. When you don't and you're working within a studio and they've got the confines of, like, holding on to that work or putting you on an NDA or something like that, it really limits your ability to showcase that.
Geneva and Sage, I'd love to hear from y'all. Sorry, Dre.
Okay.
It's all good.
Did you want to go?
You go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to speak more on the topic of the community aspect, especially coming out of a university. So for me, the community element was really important because essentially I had an internship that I got through the NIA Center. For those of you who don't know, the NIA Center is a space for BIPOC artists to get mentored. So through that, there was an opportunity to intern as an editor, and then COVID happened, so I did that online. And then when we came back to in-person, essentially they had a party that I was invited to, and I met the people that I had been working with that whole time online, who introduced me to somebody else who he used to go to high school with, and they were hiring for a motion design role. So it's kind of like things like that where being in these spaces is really important because you don't know who you're going to meet or who's going to introduce you to someone who will get you your job. And it was a really cool experience for me because essentially from that point, following up obviously is super important. I emailed that night and then was introduced to the rest of the team, had an online interview, and then got an internship that turned into full-time work. So it was kind of that beginning stage of, I think I was in second year of university to fourth year, having that internship turn into another internship that turned into that job. So always kind of being aware of who's around you and keeping those contacts close. I think about if I never stayed in contact with that person who I originally was interning with, like what if I just completely like stopped emailing them? I would have never been invited to the party or been able to be introduced to those other people.
Me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my experience with community is obviously a little different than most other people's I met. So one thing that I didn't say was that I actually moderate the Cinema 4D subreddit on Reddit. So that's me. So I deal with almost entirely
Trolls all day.
Beginners who have like no idea what they're asking. And I realized like really early, you can't be blamed for not knowing what you don't know. So like, I have a very strict policy in the subreddit for no stupid questions.
Yeah.
Right? So like, I think, and to the point that someone else made, when you need to get your stuff out there, get it out there. Reddit is actually a really good place for that. If you're a little nervous about it, you can veil your work in anonymity. Just give yourself a crazy name like I did.
Yeah, me too.
And post on Reddit, and no one knows who you are, what you look like, what your personality is. Like it's almost entirely about your work. And when you get feedback on a platform like that, it's a lot different than like Twitter or Instagram, because it's designed for you to get a lot more detailed feedback. And people you won't always get detailed feedback, but it's a good place if you're nervous about it to just put stuff out there. And I am always on there. I'm trying to give as much feedback as I can. And yeah, I met Matt through Reddit, the work that they were posting.
Yeah.
And I commented, and then we started talking to each other. Then I got invited on like the 6th podcast.
Yeah.
What number are you guys on?
What are we on? Like 376 now? Wow. We've done 376 podcasts. I think we just hit our 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So
yeah.
And again, like that is how, and to mirror a lot of these comments, like, so I met these guys through Reddit, really.
Yeah.
And then we did this podcast, and then they were like, you should come out to NAB. So I came out to NAB, but the fact that actually, that's not true. We went to Half Res first.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, yeah.
We went to Half Res first. That's organized by Chris Schmidt over there. Great event.
Yes.
And then
happening in a few weeks. Pick up your tickets online at halfres.com. There you go.
Yeah, so, but it was an event like this that I started to meet more people, started to connect with more people, and now I have like really legitimate, long-term, real friends that I can like bounce ideas off of in a very transparent way. Like I don't feel nervous about, is this shitty? Is this like, it's like, I feel like this is shitty. Is it as shitty as I think it is? And that type of relationship is actually very healthy because you do it for each other. You make sure that like you keep each other in check. You're like, oh no, this is not nearly as bad as you think. This could be better. Like you get those, you get that community going, and you can do it on the Slack. You could do it, but yeah, coming to events like this really does help. So you've all made a really good first step if this is your first event to just come out to one, and you'll get more comfortable with it. You'll get more comfortable meeting people, talking to people, like, because I'm introverted. I hate talking to people. Matt knows this.
But I will always listen to you talk.
I think even if you're not a people person, if you're a hardcore basement dwelling introvert, like just being in the communities online, on the Slack channels, the Discord servers, whatever else, to kind of learn off other people, meet other people too, is a great, way to expand your knowledge and network.
Absolutely.
There's two really concrete pieces of advice I'd like to give, and it's something I see all the time at different events. But it goes to, almost everybody showing up here is going to be naturally introverted, naturally shy. But the other thing that's great is almost everybody's naturally nice. Like, this community is so inviting.
Especially in Canada.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does go to virtually everywhere.
Except
you can talk to them.
I gotcha.
But something really specific, and it goes to like every place I go. You never want to go to these events alone. A lot of people find a couple friends to come to the event, but then you end up just standing in a circle with your friends, and you never talk to anybody else. Like, merge your group with another group and start networking. Chat with other people. That's how you're going to build those relationships up. And the other thing is, if you are feeling shy about your work, it's a lot like being chased by a bear. Like, you don't need to be faster than the bear. You just need to be faster than the person next to you. So like in the entire community, and even in Toronto, there's going to be all these different studios, and it's like, okay, is your work the best work that's around? Like, only one person's going to have the best work, but all your work needs to do is be better than the person in that job, and maybe now you can get the job, or swap it out, or keep on climbing up. So don't judge yourself, especially these days. Everything's judged online and everything's being posted, and you're always comparing yourself to the best stuff in the world. But remember, like, there's a whole spectrum of skill ranges everywhere. So there's a place for your skill set.
I will also say, at events like this, you can be nervous, but we are all connected by the fact that we all artists. So you don't need to be as nervous as you think. Like, if you go up to another artist with work, they understand the language you're speaking already, and that is a huge step, a huge hurdle, a huge bridge to help get over like that whole nervousness. It's like, we're all C40 artists, we all speak C40. At least some of us are, I don't know. There may be some Blender people in there. But yeah, like you can talk shop with somebody a lot easier, and then those nerves start to go away. I think that helps a lot as well.
Totally, I agree.
I heard a rumor that if you're not a good artist or an artist at all, you can become a trainer.
It's true.
I don't know.
Those who can't do teach, right? Or
Someone did it.
Why do you think I started doing tutorials? The meetups are important, and there's so many. I know with Maxon in particular, and even with our podcast, we're always looking for new talent to like either have on the podcast or feature, or like even Maxon does a bunch of articles. We do a bunch of articles about people and really talented work, and we're always looking for people. So don't be afraid to just go up and say, hey, check out my demo reel. It's right here. Or soon you can say, check out my demo reel. It's mattmilstead.mograph.com. Right.
Actually, I want to ask this as a general rule, because in my mind, walking up to somebody and saying, here's my demo reel is a bad move. Like, I think I've always said that networking.
Well, I mean,
you
can't just say,
cool.
hey, check out my demo reel. Or
my advice is not go up with a demo reel, because I've had that happen, and it's just like, oh, like I don't even like know your name yet, and you're putting a screen in my face. It's more like, hey, let's stand around for a couple minutes, have a conversation. At the end, be like, hey, can I follow you on Instagram? Like, oh, here's mine, and now you can chat there, and now you send the demo reel, and you're not standing around in a circle holding little screens.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. All right. What's next? What else we got? I don't want to talk about AI.
I don't want to talk about AI, but we can keep it more broad. Well, we will eventually probably get there. but included in that, I want to talk a little bit and get everybody's opinion on dealing with anxiety. And I want to keep it kind of broad, but a couple like pins to put in that is like the anxiety when NFTs became huge, of like to do it, like being judged by being a part of it, or being worried you're missing out. AI, feeling like you're not keeping up with the tools and whatnot. Yeah. When it comes to just like trying to find work and network, and like, hey, freelance is drying up for 6 months. Like, what do I do during that? So how do people deal with anxiety?
You do NFTs that are AI. Put them together.
Monty Python once said, just stop it. You have anxiety, just stop it.
Great advice.
There's a great Monty Python skit about that particular thing.
I deal a lot with imposter syndrome, You know, I have a lot going on, and I don't get my work out there as much as I would like. Like literally this whole year, I've maybe done 2 or 3 big projects that have been out, you know.
But they're big projects. Like that's the thing too, is I think people get stuck seeing people post every day. Like you have to do that too. Like I do projects nowadays that take like 3 months. And sometimes I squeeze out little things just to feed that itch of, you know, not having posted anything in a while. But I think it's kind of like that's not the end all be all, is this output that's constant, and you know, you don't have to do that. That's not like a bar that you have to jump over. It's perfectly fine to work on projects that take you a while and share them once every quarter.
Right.
You know?
Not everyone has to be people doing dailies. Yeah. If you want to, all the more powerful, because that's hard. I wouldn't do it. But yeah, I mean, I've dealt with the imposter syndrome of like putting my work out there. It's like, you know, I spent maybe a month on this project and I want to get it out there. I'm gonna see who likes it or not. And one thing that I've noticed, I have a friend, I won't name names, but he's an incredible artist, just so incredibly good. He's not a 3D artist, he's an actual like drawing artist. But he holds all of his work so close to him, he doesn't like to put it out there, even though in my mind, he is the most amazing artist I've ever seen, you know? And he's so worried about putting his work out and then someone stealing it or something like that, that he refuses to do it. And it's actually held him back significantly, I believe, in, you know, getting work and, you know, networking and stuff like that. I don't know, what do y'all think? Geneva, I see some thoughts forming.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I definitely feel that sometimes with the work, where there's always, if you're the one creating it, you always think that you can do better, and so it's really difficult to officially have it out. And then even sometimes you might put it out and then realize something that you're like, oh, I could have tweaked this, I could have tweaked that. So I completely feel that, and I think for me, where the stress kind of comes from is definitely social media with the different art that I see, because as you were saying, like, all the top artists, you're seeing their work, and I think the thing that gets me is not knowing how many people were on the project, because sometimes I'll see it and I'll be like, oh, is that like, I used to think it was like 1 or 2 people, and then you realize it's like 20 people working on this project for like 3 months. So I think for me, it's putting that into perspective. How many people were on the project? How long did it take them? And then realize I am one person, I'm still learning, and in the future I can work on those types of projects with a team.
And then it's more stress when you find out it was one person in about a week, right?
Yeah.
It was all Victor.
Yeah.
Winbush, what do you think? I don't feel like you deal with imposter syndrome at all. You're just out there.
Yeah, it is what it is, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I just put myself out there and then just lift weights and watch anime. So I don't really I don't look at the comments too much, if that's what you guys are talking about. Like, I try to look for questions and maybe answer questions, but like trolls and all this stuff that people are trying to put you down for, like, just kind of ignore it, because it's the internet, right? It's just going to do what it's going to do. So can't really think too much into it, because like you said, your friend, he's holding himself back by not putting himself out there. And I mean, I did the same thing, right? Like, I've been doing this professionally since like 2006, but only recently people start to know who I am, because, you know, I'd be working at studios and never putting anything out there, and people didn't really start knowing who I was until I started putting myself out there. And even that came with a little bit of anxiety, but, you know, people were just like, hey, you need to put your stuff out there, because a lot of people would come to me for help and I would help them, and they're like, why aren't you just putting this stuff out on YouTube? So that's what kind of got that into fruition. And then once you put it out there and you see how receptive the community is, then it kind of becomes addicting, and you want to keep doing it and helping more people. And that's kind of where it put me where I'm at today. So like, a lot of people don't even know I do motion graphics. Like, they all just think I do tutorials and stuff, but
Oh, you do motion graphics?
yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I just worked on like Power Rangers for Netflix, and I posted it, and people were like, you worked on that? And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's how I make money. Like, YouTube, I can't live off YouTube. I make like pennies on the videos.
After 10 years, I know that.
I want to add something to what Jonathan said. When I get a negative comment or bad, I've been begging people to downvote my videos, because I feel that there's no bigger compliment than some idiot posting something negative for no reason, wasting their time just to try and bring me down, I feel elated because someone wasted part of their life just to post something totally dumb.
I feel like you kind of embrace it, right? I saw one tutorial where you're like, before you even got into a tutorial, you're like calling people out, like, oh, that idiot that gave me a downvote the last video, I dare you to
Get closer to the mic.
You're like calling the people out in the middle.
You have to
of
lean in,
tutorial.
right? One of the ways, and just tied into the previous thing, leaning into the negativity allows you to be able to cross that barrier because no one really knows you. The person that says the worst thing about you is someone that doesn't know who you are, maybe didn't even watch your video. And take that again. Someone wasted time to do that. Take that as a compliment. If that means what you're doing is worth it. If someone is willing to waste their time to do something, lean into the negativity instead of feeling defensive about it. It's empowering to, someone says something bad, smile back. It will drive them nuts. Always be polite to the most rude of people.
There's the Canadian in you.
Oh, really? Oh my God, I've been here for too long. That's why I moved to Quebec. People up front there. I'm going to come back to my old self. Thank you for reminding me.
I'll agree with you there too, because you may get one or two negative comments on stuff that you post online or something, but the amount of positivity that's in our industry, you're going to get exponentially more. Don't let the trolls or the comments or whatever bother you. We are all in this motion graphics family together, unfortunately, and it is,
You know what the best answer is to a negative comment? Thank you for being honest. Because then someone that hasn't been honest, you're actually insulting them in their face, right? But you're being polite about it. Someone says something to, that's a talking head, one of my videos. Oh, a talking head and this and that. I don't understand. Thank you for your honest opinion. They disappeared. You don't have to remove the post or anything like that. They just disappear. They can't handle it. So lean into the negativity and embrace the positivity because, another thing, for people that use competitive software, we have the most embracing and friendly community. A friend of mine recently went to another, I'm not going to say which free software it is.
Like Wave.
And the toxicity of reply. I'm not talking about, social stuff. I'm talking about the genuine negativity in the general posts about people's work, I don't know if everyone has that experience, but they said compared to the Cinema 4D community, it's night and day. I think
that's more of an age demographic thing. Got probably a 10-year younger age demographic on the free software.
Yeah.
And I will say, the C4D community, used to be very negative. And I want to say that Paul and Matthias, who work for Maxon, really turned that around with their positivity in this community. They built up a community that is just so inviting when it used to not be. All right, what else we got?
I want to hear some stories now. The dark times.
It's
when hyper nerds were around, right? That was
I remember hyper nerds.
Bad day.
Let's see, what else we got, Chris?
I don't know. I asked the last two questions.
All right.
What do you guys deal with? Like, I'm wondering what the motion graphics industry is like right now, especially for C4D artists, because with Blender coming in, AI, I know you want to steer away from this kind of stuff.
It's okay. We can talk about AI if you want.
So
because
interested. Yeah.
What's really funny is the last DAT show that I was on was Philadelphia, and that was a few months ago, and AI art especially has changed so much since. We didn't have generative fill in Adobe like a few months ago whenever I was doing this. And I'll tell you, I kind of like it. I think Adobe's doing it the correct way because I think they're pulling entirely from their library.
That's subjective.
Okay. Okay. Hey, these are all opinions here. None of these opinions are that of Maxon. They are entirely of Matt Milstead. But I worked on a project the other day where I basically had to I had to create a bunch of like landscapes and stuff. And I will say Adobe Generative Fill is fantastic at landscapes. You know, what I would do is I would go into Midjourney, I'd give it a prompt, I'd say like I need a river from above, and then it would give me that, and then I needed to extend it, or I'd get 4 different versions, I'd download all of them and kind of stitch them together using Adobe Generative Fill. And it's amazing. I was able to take something that if I was doing it entirely in Cinema 4D with like actual textures and, you know, actual geometry and stuff, would have taken me a long time, and I was able to get it done in probably 4 hours in After Effects and Photoshop. You know,
and it was good enough for the client. It's a great supplementary tool to help you make things faster. But I think when I see a lot of artists where I'm like, like I saw an artist kind of say like, look, I got Midjourney to design all my characters, and then I did all the grueling work of modeling it and animating it and rigging it. And it's like, well, you should use AI for that stuff. Yeah. And then design the character yourself. You're kind of doing it backwards. Because like when you make a piece of art and you're proud of it and you listen to the track you made over and over again at night because you made a killer beat or whatever, or you watch your animation and you just, you know, you're in love with your own artwork because you're proud of what you made it because you made 9,000 decisions that created this 2-minute video. It's like I don't have that when I just blurt out something in AI. So if I used AI in like 1,000 of those 10,000 decisions, then, you know, I can still have some kind of ownership of it where I'm proud of it. But I just find that there's so much kind of like drain of like, I don't care about this, even though I made it, sort of.
I can see that. Yeah, I definitely see the value. You know, you don't. There's much less value in some of the AI art that is put out there. For example, I'll use this for an example. I love retro gaming. I love the NES. The NES is such a wonderful, wonderful console, and I own a lot of NES games. But I also own a what's it called? I own a lot of, I mean, you can play emulators and stuff like that, but it's just not the same. It has different value because you don't physically own the piece, you know, versus similar with AI art, where it's like, I didn't create this, I just typed in a prompt, you know, something along those lines, right? Y'all get the similarities.
AI in video games is cool, though.
AI video games?
Yeah, they've like if you're playing a game like Skyrim, you know, you're going up to the NPCs and you're having conversations. Like they've been developing AI to where you're having actual conversations with the NPCs in the game. So it's not like pre-triggered dialogue. It's like they're coming up with dialogue based on their conversation, which I think is really dope. So
yeah, that's cool.
I'm all for that type of stuff.
I'm so uncreative. I can't even write prompts properly, so even AI is useless. But if you're looking for job security, I asked that thing, what's it called?
ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT, whatever. Yeah, about a simple cinema 4D question. Mm-hmm. It was total gobbledygook. And I posted on Twitter my question, my answer, and underneath, this is what job security looks like.
Yeah.
So, because it's just a statistical model that strings words together based on the context it understands, and I think the chances of a word or a number of words to come after that. And it was total garbage. It sounded cool. It sounded correct.
Right.
Anyone that doesn't know, but it's so funny. I mean, I don't care about AI.
That's where machine learning comes in, because learning after questions. So if somebody asks that same question, then you might know.
Yeah, that's why don't feed it. Don't ask questions, because then you're feeding the beast.
Well, I'll put EJ's line in here, which he's always says, which is, remember, AI is at the worst it's ever going to be right now. It only gets better. So if you're saying, oh, I feel secure because I asked it a question that stumbled over it, you'll be eating your words in a year or 2 years.
No, because I'm nearly 60 years old. So.
Oh, okay. You'll be retired.
It won't matter anymore. But I think the biggest one that was making the rounds is that Wonder AI thing. What's it called again?
Yeah, something like
Wonder
that.
Dynamics.
Wonder Dynamics. And it's pretty impressive. It's like it tracks, you can take video footage of somebody and then it'll do the auto kind of mocap, figure out the joint animation, erase the background, and basically comp the whole thing in one swoop.
Yeah.
But like looking at it, it's like, okay, well, what if there's a crowd behind it? It's not going to work. What if
Right.
the arms and legs go out of the frame for a minute and come back in? It's not going to work. Like there's so many instances where it's going to screw up that you need all those skills to do the mocap, to do the animation, to do the erasing of the background. You still need all those skills to take it over the finish line, unless you're just shooting against a blue sky and a brick wall and, you know, things.
Right.
So it's like, I feel like, yes, it's a threat, but it's just going to make your life easier where you still need all these skills and you still need to be well-rounded and take things over the finish line. And also to art direct things to a level that you can now. It's hard with all these AI apps. You can't get the exact angle you need. Like it will get better, but it's very hard to make a precise vision that you have using AI fully.
I agree. You know, I see AI more as, you know, supplemental tools or like a plugin, buying a plugin instead of doing everything, you know, from scratch. You know, that's the way I see it. It's a really good example there with the Move AI or whatever, because yes, you do need to know how to do background replacements. Dave was actually showing me some stuff that he did the other day, and I was like, that's a really good starting point. You know, it's a good place to start from, but it's definitely not the finish. It's not the final.
I would say too, just going back into Midjourney, I feel like it's really interesting for references for client work, because I know recently, so I work at Ultra Ego, and we had a client come in, they wanted like this tunnel thing, but the client didn't know exactly what they wanted that to look like. So things like that, using AI to give visual examples and make it clear that it's AI, gives the client the ability to see possibilities, and then from there there's something to work off of. So you're not building this tunnel for like a few days and then they say no. So I think in that particular situation, I really like using AI.
I agree. The number of times that I have used Midjourney actually in its infancy when it couldn't do hands correctly, you know, where I'm creating style frames and stuff like that, or take it to, you know, a client and say, this is kind of the general idea that I'm thinking, or like taking pieces from this and this and this picture, putting it all together. It's really easy for them to see what you're expecting, and you're not kind of taking other people. I'll stay away from that thought, but also being able to, and then creating something based off of that work. You know, that way they have a really good idea of what to expect.
I have a question for all the artists here, both the audience and the panel. So the AI learns from existing material, right? It doesn't have an imagination. It's mostly hallucinating these images. That's the technical term. No, that's the actual technical term. It hallucinates an image. It's more like a dream, but yet it's very confined to what is already what exists. Now, humans have the ability to think beyond only their experiences, but don't you feel that the more AI is used, even for reference, that it's going to converge in a range of styles rather than bringing in other things which are 100% human? I believe that artists need to start thinking about, the more you use it, the more constrained the result is going to be. And you know, I think the value of the human input is that our experience is different than a statistical model. We're not, other than me, I'm very specific on these things. Most humans, they don't process the information absolutely. They have there's a range. It's like a different type of understanding. But the more it's being used, the more I think it's going to converge into very specific looks and styles. And my question, and here's a question after all this, just maybe for consideration. Don't you think that is going to restrict the artistic ability of people that rely on this thing?
Yes. So here's an interesting, yes, I 100% agree, because Midjourney has gotten so good, right? It's gotten so good over the past, 6 months, year, whatever. I noticed that but they still have the older versions that you can go to. For example, I'm creating an NES game right now. I'm actually making an original console game, right? And so I needed some references for pixel art and stuff like that. So I ask Midjourney, I say, hey, I need a 8-bit pixel art NES, blah, blah, blah. And it spits out a pretty cool image, but what it doesn't do is give me the actual 4 palettes or 12 palettes that an NES game actually has. But if you go back to a previous version, now don't get me wrong, those pictures are beautiful, but they're not accurate. But if you go back to a an earlier version, you can get a bit more accurate with it. And it's weird that like they're converging to this perfection almost. They're always striving for perfection, but they're also leaving out some of the things that make it more accurate.
That's a short-term problem, though.
I know.
Essentially, like as the systems get fed tons and tons of raw data, and they're actually at their most powerful and most creative with that raw data. But then once you put humans in the loop, humans start saying, well, don't say that, that was horrible, like that was racist or something. And then you start restricting. You say that those were bad hands, those were bad hands, those were bad hands. And as you do that, you're not just restricting like the circuits that are the bad hands, it's restricting more and more and more of the model. But the counterpoint to this is if you feed in more raw training data, you get more emergent properties. Like brand new techniques and stuff it could never do before, it can do simply by getting more raw information. And they're constantly giving the stuff more raw information. In a lot of ways, some of the models are hitting the limit of like, oh, essentially it's already looked at all the information on the internet as far as text is concerned. So now they've got the models watching YouTube videos to get more content and more like things that we think are like, it's like, well, AI can do this and this, but it can't do that. It's like until suddenly they feed in enough training data, and now it's like, oh, NES, like let me make the whole game for you, and I know the restrictions and I know all the details, and like that could just become an emergent property at some point.
I think that the fear of it being homogenized or whatever, like, simplified down to this regurgitated goo is kind of what humans do anyway. Like, I got so many pitch decks from ad agencies that it's just Google image search of a bunch of crap that somebody lazily put together and is like, do this except make it, unique.
How many Grayscale Gorilla tutorials end up in everybody's demo reel?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, I don't know, if you're going to do that anyway, might as well use AI because it's like going to be better than your Google image search. And then like, I don't know, it's just kind of human nature to copy each other. Like you get Pearl Jam, you get Stone Temple Pilots, and 20 bands in between. It just everyone fills in the gaps.
I was telling my wife that the other day. I'm like, we turn on the radio. I'm like, who is this? She goes, Stone Temple Pilots. I said, no, it's probably Pearl Jam. Yeah. We have to look. Sorry.
But I mean, it goes. I think people give human creativity honestly too much credit. Like what we're all doing is a very mechanical thing. We're synthesizing things that we've taken in. And yeah, I mean, you can come up with a cool new original concept by merging things you've never seen before. And maybe there's some little bit of design space that nobody had ever quite gotten to. But how much of that is just revealed via like some like technical application? Like, oh, there's now Vanta Black where you can paint like a picture blacker than ever before. It's like, oh, that's now opened up opportunities for new design. But until that literal paint existed, it was not in a human's like vocabulary to even be able to articulate that idea or concept. So yeah, we're just all merging and synthesizing ideas anyway. So people act like there's this huge difference between what AIs are doing and what people are doing. It's like not as different as you would think.
Yeah. All right, let's move away from AI.
Oh.
Yay! How do you up your game? How do you go from lowly motion designer to Nick Denbauer?
Software. Learn new software.
Yeah.
Expand out of. I don't know. I found I was in an After Effects hole for a long time, like doing a little game over and over again, applying that technique to the different client, different project, and then until I started using Cinema 4D in like 2009 or something, you just kind of expand and realize that it can up your game huge. That was a big up for me, and now expanding into Houdini and other software as well beyond that has been another little game upper. So I say just keep learning software and get out of your comfort zone.
How do you find time for that?
That's all I do. I don't have kids. I just do this stuff.
For those who have kids, don't have kids. Nick Denbauer.
Yeah, I'll stand behind that. Might have to ask somebody else.
Anybody else? Anybody? Winbush, how do you up your game?
As into like being an artist, or?
Sure. Being an artist, being a
Yeah,
better
I mean, I have
motion
to say the
designer,
same thing.
being
I
a better overall human.
Yeah, I just like he was saying, like basically I just learn new stuff all the time. Don't be scared. Even if you're going against the grain, just do you. Just go in, learn something new, and make it work for yourself. I mean, that's kind of what happened with me with Unreal, right? Like 2019, I introduced the motion graphics community to Unreal because I was learning it just for myself because I was using Octane Redshift and had my own render farm, and my electric bill was skyrocketing every single month. And I'm like, there has to be a better way. That's why I turned to game engines and then kind of start putting that out to the community as well. Of course, there's going to be pushback because you're going against the grain, but you know, you can't be scared of it. Just go out, learn something new, and at the end of the day, you learn how to make these different tools work for what you want to do. Even if it's not good for the masses, it's good for you, and you're up in yourself. So I just say, don't be scared. Just go out there and do it. And eat your vitamins and work out. That's enough.
Vic, you're leaning forward. You're ready to say something.
Just practice on, just practice. I mean, just create and create and create. And personal projects, that's how you grow, in my opinion, the most. Because if you're working for a client all the time, you've got their restrictions, their ability, their vision as to how it's supposed to weave and turn into what they want to see. But when you're working on personal projects, you can sit there and take the amount of time you need to find your aesthetic, and also like weave through that journey to figure out what works best for you.
And also, clients only ask you to do what they've already seen you have
100%.
done. So to break new ground,
Yes.
you kind of have to do a personal project.
Absolutely. I'll agree with that, actually. That's why it's very important to put your work out there, because I've found, especially for those who are creating demo reels or doing demo reels, only put the stuff on your demo reel that you want to do. Don't put work on there just to fill up time. If your demo reel's 30 seconds, who cares? At least show the stuff that you want to do in your, professional career. The number of stupid explainer videos I had on my demo reel 10, 15 years ago, and I hate them. I hate doing them, but I was just putting it in there to fill space. It's not cool. Now I fill it up with other garbage that I don't want to do.
Hey, can I switch it a little bit?
Yeah, do it.
Can we ask them any topics they want us to go over?
Yeah.
If anybody
What do
has
y'all
any
want to hear
questions
about
out there?
Yeah. Burnout. Dude.
Yo, get a hobby. Like, honestly, get a hobby.
But what do you do when your hobby is 3D motion design?
That was my
It shouldn't be, because I was, for 10 plus years, that's what I did. I was 100% like going, I think 14-hour days, doing that kind of thing. Eventually you get to, I guess, where you want to be within your career, you're making the pay you want to create, and then you get to a point where you wonder, like, what's next? Because if I've already hit these peaks and valleys of where I wanted to go to, then what? And then you're left with an almighty question at like 34, 35 years of age, now what? But I think the thing is diversify. I think you have to get like a different hobby, whether that's, I don't know, skidooing. I don't know what kids do today.
What is skidooing?
Snowmobiling.
I picked up.
We don't have snow in
anything,
Texas.
I picked up any kind of like physical activity, going on walks. Like, I think expand outwards from just the computer. I know it's like so easy because all of our lives are dependent on this one screen to provide us with like a career, a job, social interaction, but it's kind of bullshit. Like, it is. Pick up a sport, pick up any kind of activity that is like social, and expand out, go traveling. Like, that is the best thing for me personally when I hit like that breaking point and I need to figure out what to do. It was traveling. You meet a lot of people, you see a lot of cool places. I went through Europe, I figured stuff out mentally, and just you get to experience how other people experience the world, because within our insular industry, we all experience it relatively the same way. We sit on like a very comfortable chair or an uncomfortable chair, and we spend 8 hours to 10 hours doing something. I think anything that gets you out of that chair, it will just mentally, what is it?
They say go out and touch grass, right? That's the big saying right now.
Yeah, just touch grass, I guess. I
Have
mean,
lots of kids.
so
You'll burn out from your kids faster than you will from
I think
motion
anything
design,
that
trust
gets
me.
you outside and communicating with people, and not just communicating through an internet connection, is worthwhile, and I think that's somewhat being forgotten. I think the thing for me that helped out was running. Like, I wake up every day and I run 5 kilometers a day. it helped out so much to the point where like you.
How many miles is that?
It's a lot. Well, 5K is.
I can
nothing.
tell you how many meters it is.
Yeah.
5K is nothing, but it's exactly the thing that I love about it, as opposed to our field, is that when you're doing something every day, and I did this with 3D stuff, you get better and better and better and better, and that's the fun of our craft. It's actually the fact that like we start off at a 0 level, and we're starting to take in so much information, we're starting to see ourselves get better, but at a certain point, you plateau in the art. It happens to every artist. You find a point where like your leveling up is so much more, it's smaller, and the reward is less than it was when you started in the beginning, because when you start in the beginning, you've got so much information to take in, learn, figure out your style, that when you get to that plateau, you don't feel the same. And that's when burnout, I think, happens. You're basically trying to get that same feeling that you got in the beginning, but you're almost at the end of the journey trying to do that. And so I found is like when you get to that point, find something else to add to it. And from that like 5K to 5K to 5K every day, I ended up doing like a marathon like last year in Toronto. And I think it's just, there are things outside of what we do in this industry that are interesting. And I know as nerds, like, and we all start off that way, and we all are that way. We watch television shows all the time, like hardcore cartoons. Like I fucking love anime. Attack on Titan's super good. I don't know if anyone's seen season 4, but like there's so much shit that we're like super into. But we're always sitting down, and I think if you expand outside of that, and as Winbush said, touch grass, like you'll realize that like not only will it affect your work, your mental health, and I think that's the most important thing, your ability to go back into our field again with a fresh palette. Because when we're just when we're just consumers and creators, but there's nothing in between where we're experiencing the craft of what we're doing, I think we become robotic. And I think, you know, to link back to AI, it was like
We're not talking about AA.
to link, well, to relatively link to it, it was just that there's almost like, I see so much of that artwork, and it all looks like the same style. It's homogenous. And I think that the beautiful thing about people and humans is that we can take so much information and inspiration from so many different things and put like a soul back into our work. And I think with AI, it looks the same. Like, I don't know, at first it started off being interesting and pretty impressive, but now I can always point out the AI picture. And I think that the cool thing is when you see artists that like are unique. And I think the uniqueness is the interesting thing about what we do. When someone could take the same software as you, the same plugins as you, and come up with a completely different result that manages to stand out and excel the craft, that's interesting. And I think you get that kind of inspiration from other things outside of our craft, because if we're always just copying different artists, it's not going to work out. You're basically taking someone else's design. But if you're going outside and seeing those places, like seeing what, like, you know, the Colosseum looked like, seeing what the Egyptian pyramids looked like. I did a visit there.
You can do that on Google Earth.
Yeah, VR.
You can totally do it within Google Earth, but I think when you go there, like when I went to Egypt and I saw the pyramids and the grandeur of it, like the massive, like how the scale of everything that was built back then, you have like this experience of going, okay, I understand how you're supposed to feel when you're in those places. So when you create concept art or anything like that, it helps within creating a scale that you take into your work. And sorry guys, I feel like I've been blabbing for a while. I'll stop.
Diverging opinion.
Yeah, Vic.
Of course.
Go for it.
They say if you can't afford to go to Egypt like Vic, you could play Fortnite with me. On Saturday nights, I host a game night every Saturday. So if you're getting burned out, you just want to shoot some avatars, yeah, just holler at me. We'll do it together.
I find burnout usually hits me when I'm doing a job I don't want to be doing, and then I'm like, I'm burnt out. But if I got a project where the client gives me full creative control and it's like a dream job, then I'll go 16-hour days and I don't even care. I'm just having a blast. So it's kind of like that part of the mentality it works its way into it as well.
Yeah. When I'm working on a project that I really enjoy, or I really like the client, or it's a fun project, I don't care. I'll spend extra hours on it, you know, just to make it look good.
Can I ask, like when you brought up burnout, like is it from client work or just feeling like you're not putting out enough content? Or
You're talking about like how like doing personal work too. It's like, but
doing personal work,
right?
A lot of us do.
Right, in a day job.
More in the banal range of things. It's not bad. It's not like it's work for people like you may enjoy.
Right.
But it is very much the same thing over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Getting burnout from doing the repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can
So-
definitely get that working at, you know, a normal 9 to 5 or a company that does very specific things.
Yeah.
I can see you, it's very easily to get burned out with that.
Yeah, so like when, like, and I do enjoy doing personal work, I do like doing experimentation and so on, and I agree with like kind of like that, you know, making room for that. But like, it is, to me, it's like, so like, you know, like you said, like you're gonna be sitting at the computer for like 12 hours, or you're gonna be sitting at the computer for 16 hours, like what are you gonna be doing? Like try and like, you know, kind of do these two things, because like, I think like there's a portion of the industry.
I should bring my mic over here so that people on the stream can hear you. Here you go.
Oh,
boy.
I felt.
So that people on the industry who are able to do more creative work and have the more lauded jobs and those kinds of things and have the better clients, like it's easier to for them to avoid that. But there is a lot of work in the industry that is like, you know, more what's run of the mill. So I'm just more curious about like trying, like, it's like more a bit of a personal question, because like I'm struggling with this right now, where I just like, once I'm done for the day, I'm off the computer. Like,
Do you have
100%. I'm with you. And I tell people this all the time, that you really have to separate your personal life from your work life. You know, I know a lot of people have problems with that. For me, for example, I work from home, so I'm home all the time. Like, I don't leave ever. I'm surprised. I take my kids to school and I pick them up from school, but I don't ever leave my house, you know? But my office is upstairs. It's a separate room. It's got a door, you know? And as soon as I'm done, I turn off all my lights, all my camera equipment, everything, shut that door, and I don't even think about it anymore. I have to do that. Otherwise, I'm gonna hate what I do all the time. And I'm gonna hate living in my house, because my office is right there.
I want to do devil's advocate here, and I might sound like a jerk doing it, but that's okay.
You jerk.
I feel like and I mean, this is a super common question, and I think everybody, you know, does experience burnout. But I think it's super important to remember that we're in an incredibly privileged position, that's a worry. How many jobs can be like, oh, I'm getting creatively burnt out on this thing I'm doing? Like, if you're a lawyer, like looking up like laws and codes and just writing documents all day. If you're working in a grocery store and you're just restocking shelves. If you're a waiter, I've done 2 of those 3 jobs before. There's no creativity. You're just doing the same thing over and you're doing it over and over and over again.
Our job could also feel like that too, though. The conveyor belt thing. I mean, it's not always creative.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Is like the fact that we get to be creative at all is amazing, and just I guess when you do have a good client and a good project, like appreciate it. Like, be like, hey, I'm doing something that is so incredibly amazing, and very few people get paid to be creatively fulfilled.
Repetition causes burnout. 'Cause, I mean, I've been there before too. Like, I worked at movie trailer houses where literally when you watch a movie trailer, you see the big 3D text coming in, right? Like, coming Friday or coming September 21st, and every single movie has that same dialogue, and it's like, in a world. Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's like during the pitches, it started the same exact way every time. Like, the client would come in, we want to do something we never did before, go crazy with it. Make all these style frames really nice. At the end of the day, it's just red text against a white psych. And we did that every single movie. Can you make the logo bigger? So, and it's like, after doing that for so long, you get burned out. So I definitely get it. I mean, it's not just labor jobs. I mean, creatively, you get burned out just because of clients, you know, like clients can.
Oh, no, totally. No, I believe in burnout. Believe me, like, burnout's a super thing for our industry. I'm just saying, even the fact that that's a worry is almost like a privilege for us, because other people don't even get like, it's a guaranteed burnout in every other job. We're here, well, sometimes we have to deal with it and then, like, explore the creativity. So
I've definitely done what you did, though, by the way, where it's like you do the 9 to 5 and then you do another basically like 4 or 5 hours before you go to bed to kind of work on like the passion project. I think for me, when I lived that lifestyle, it was that I was so creatively unfulfilled in the other job that there was no option. It was like, I have to do those 4 or 5 hours. And so when you don't really have that choice, it's a lot more motivating. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if I'm not making the money I need to make, if I'm not creatively satisfied, then I have to get out of it. And so if I have to get out of it, taking the break after work is just not gonna work for me. So you just have to do it. and it's not the best answer to give on that front, but the results like speak for themselves, sort of thing. And so you just have to eat it up, suck it up, and do it. And it sucks.
You know what? I'm gonna help you out right now. Boxing. At the end of the day, and not even talking about like sparring or anything. Like real talk. Like pre-pandemic, I had a gym membership, and at the 9 o'clock at night to 11, you see me at the gym just hitting the heavy bag just to let a lot of aggression out, and it helped deal with that burnout when I was working at studios and stuff. So I'm not saying like take out boxing as like, you know, professional or anything. Just like go out and just hit some stuff, and that will help with the burnout. Then go back to your computer and you feel refreshed. So
just exercise, man. It helps. It helps.
No,
It
you
just,
have to hit stuff that helps you.
well, exercise. No, just hit stuff. Vic.
I lift weights. Hitting the heavy bag is definitely different. So
I want to offer another opinion. Number one, don't get to burnout, right? Because burnout is a state most people find themselves after a certain amount of time, right? There's a lead up to burning out. And I think one of the main reasons for that is learning the tools of the trade. If you're doing anything you love and it's harder for you to do, imagine if you're painting and you got a brick tied to your hand. It's harder than just painting without a brick. Learning your tools of the trade, because whether we like it or not, it is a technical profession. There's not only the artistic part, we have the artisanship part and the technical part. It's computers. So for me, one solution is when you're starting in the industry, try and learn not only the tools per se, but the technology behind the industry. Knowing what a pixel is, what transparency is in Photoshop, will actually immediately teach you what fields are in Cinema 4D. As funny as it may happen, watch my Cineversity tutorial and you realize it's exactly the same thing. So learning how things work and how to use them properly. I once had, because I started from technical support, someone used to hold the mouse with the cable coming the other way. So it will go down when the mouse went up, left when the mouse went, for some odd reason. I'm sure that if someone told that person to hold the mouse the other way, it would improve their job. But for some, it was back.
Are you talking about Apple's natural scroll?
No, about the actual mouse. So one thing is, when you're starting out your career, and I see quite a few young people here, well, pretty much everyone's younger than me, try and learn your tools properly. Put some time aside. Don't go and run that marathon without any training, right? You're going to be, you're going to end up in the hospital. That's number one. Number two, change medium. So you're all artists here, right? Pencil and paper, for crying out loud. Why do you need to express yourselves creatively only on the computer? It's a different thing, totally different discipline. It's like comparing training for swimming with going to the beach. It's a different thing. You may love, I spend a lot of time in pools. I used to play water polo. There was a time when I would go to the beach and I didn't want to touch the bloody water because I was swimming 3 miles twice a day for 200...
How many kilometers is that?
Times 1.6. There we go. I had that ready. Yeah. So diversify. The other thing I love to do, up until I was 40 and I moved to the UK, I had only read 3 books and a few manuals, but 3 books, literature. When I went to England, I had to commute to various companies using the tube, the underground. So I started picking up books. I have now an excess of 250 books. And I've never been happier than actually opening the physical medium, your eyes, sit in the sun. All these things, they may sound, or do them all together. I used to do that when I had downtime in England. Paper, a marker, and I'm not even an artist, right? A book, and sit in the sun somewhere, have a coffee or whatever favorite beverage is, and change medium, right? The fact that you're an artist doesn't mean, and your job is using technology to create art, does not mean, don't get an iPad, don't draw on the iPad. It's great, it's fantastic. Don't do it. By allowing your brain to change states, it's totally different when you touch paper.
I've been to a lot of museums lately, going and checking out different arts and different mediums.
Yep, exactly, that as well. Yeah,
and
that's fantastic.
You know, it's even though I'm not a painter at all, it does help rejuvenate my appreciation for the art that we do. You know. Yeah. Geneva, I'd love to hear from you. How do you deal with burnout?
Oh. I'm like.
Just wait for the podcast to end. That's how I deal with burnout.
As I was listening to you, Victor, I was kind of like, I'm in the stage right now where I'm working. I have 9 to 6. And then after that, trying to figure out what to do with that extra time. Am I taking a break or am I working on those passion projects? So I think for me at the moment, it's kind of like a mixture and taking long breaks. So if I'm feeling up for it, having scheduled time blocks where that's the designated learning new skills time, I feel like by blocking my time, it just makes it easier to not feel guilty when I'm not learning new things. So if it's like every Thursday and Friday at 6, then the other days of the week, I won't feel bad for not like touching the computer after 6. But I think that would be my main thing, because burnout definitely as well with all the different programs. So mainly I do 2D, but there's also 3D, and then there's also all these other programs, Houdini, and then there's Procreate, which I don't know if anyone even bothers with, because I know it's on the iPad and you're not a fan of the iPad.
You can check out our Procreate course on mograph.com.
Yeah. So I feel like it's also for me figuring out where I want to put my energy towards and kind of focusing in, because I did try the approach of trying everything, and then you're kind of like a jack of all trades and master of none, and that's not my goal. So figuring out what exactly I want to do and then putting the time in for those things.
I forgot my train of thought. Sorry.
I'll just say that I'm gonna stick with boxing. My whole goal is to make a legion of buff motion graphic designers. So when it comes to negotiating our day rates, we can get what we want. Because if everybody's able to kick ass, then it's like, why we're not going to argue with those guys, right?
Swole graph.
Another thing that I was going to say, jumping off from your point, Geneva, not you, Wimbish, but like, especially for freelancers, for independent contractors, with clients who are coming to you and being a little overbearing, setting expectations ahead of time will definitely help you from getting burned out on a lot of these projects. You know, having contracts and really setting expectations so that people know what to expect.
Yeah, 50% up front.
Yes.
50% up front. When you turn it in, make sure that you get the second 25%. And then revisions, all final revisions happen to get your other 25%. So I say that just because by the time they give you final revisions, they won't revise the entire thing because you have 75% of their money. So at that point, you've got more of the leverage. Just like, it's like a big one. I swear to God, when it comes to like negotiation and stuff like that, make sure it's 50, 25 when you put in the first draft. You'll do revisions afterwards. The next 25 is only when those final revisions are done. Set that up in the beginning and you're good to go. It's the easiest way to work.
Nick, you got thoughts? I see you leaning forward.
What Victor just said, it's usually a taboo topic, money. Like,
no, talk money, please.
It's the most important thing. Someone once told me, take that hourly rate you have in your mind, double it, multiply it by 8, add 50%, and then work 6 hours to get that. So most artists
starting at like $50, so where are you starting at?
Well, I'm
Noseman's day rate is $6,000.
No, but legit.
Let me put it out there. I've charged a big TV channel over $2,000 for a training for a day, which was 6 hours, and that included a lunch break, right? And I thought I undercharged, but that was a sort of a one-off case. But it is in our industry, it is a problem. I've heard it from many people where it comes with imposter syndrome. It's part of that baggage that most artists have. If you cannot do it yourselves, find a friend, find a therapist, find a consultant, find someone to talk about it. Don't just blurb a number. If someone says, if you give a price and someone says, okay, you've screwed up, that's it. No, there must be a doubt. They either need, always say something larger than what you're thinking. And that is a mechanical thing to do because I'm not a good negotiator.
Because they're always going to try and talk you down anyway, right?
Well,
exactly.
Here's a pro tip I always tell people. Whenever you're haggling with somebody and you end up settling lower, or even if you don't, on the invoice, say it's $5,000. You say, this was an $8,000 project, and I gave you a $3,000 discount. So next time you can charge more and be like, sorry, I can't do the discount this time.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a
100%.
great way to set that bar a little higher when you've
Mechanisms.
compromised for a client. You show it on the invoice, so it's not like they can ask for that again.
And by the way, Nick and Matt, as far as I know, and now I realize that Victor and Jonathan, as far as I know, because I don't know about everyone else, they have a very good business acumen. I don't know if it's natural or acquired.
No, it
but
comes
they're-
with a lot of mistakes.
Well,
Yeah,
they're
It's a lot
acquired.
of learning. Yeah.
So I think they have more advice to give on that, because burnout, when I felt being burnt out, although I'm not an artist, was because I was not feeling fulfilled with the deal I had, and I was punishing myself internally, saying like, why did you ask for that amount? You idiot, you idiot. They smiled when they said yes, you idiot. Yeah, and that causes you to resent the work you're doing despite what the quality is. So I think that maybe we should hear a bit more advice on mechanisms. What do you do when you negotiate? How do you need to think? Because I'm not the best person to get that advice.
I agree, and that's a conversation for another time. Because yeah, we're about done, so we're out of time.
Oh, real quick, I will say there is a motion graphics calculator online if you Google it. Like if you put in there what the expectations are, like how many hours you're going to work, and then what the work is, it will actually give you like a baseline number of what it thinks you should charge, and then you kind of go from there. So I've been using that. I forget the website, but if you just Google motion graphics calculator, you'll be able to find it.
And talk about your day rates with everyone. You know, currently mine is $850 a day. So if anyone wants to hire me, I'm a good motion designer.
$950.
2,000.
There you go.
I mean,
So-
I like Nozman's day rate at 2,000 a day.
That's what-
That's a good one.
3,000.
So yeah, but talk about your rates. Talk about how much you get paid. I don't know how it is in Canada. In the U.S., you are fully allowed to talk about your salary, and it is against the law for them to fire you for that. So just so everyone knows, I don't know how it is in Canada.
I think we're a little bit more humble when it comes to that kind of stuff. We don't
Yeah.
really talk about it, but that was actually something that I learned from...
Talk to the mic.
Oh, sorry. I think we're a lot more humble when it comes to that kind of stuff. We don't really talk about money, but that was actually something that I learned fairly quickly from engaging with you guys within the community, how open everyone was with how much they were getting paid. It was, it didn't even feel rude asking if they just randomly gave you that information, because I think everyone just wanted a baseline for how much we get paid.
Yeah, plus, you know, you start, I love that y'all are having your own conversation over there. Also, you know, you start making connections and stuff like that. If you already know how much, if you want to bring someone on for your project, you already know what their day rate is,
Yeah.
you know?
And it's like, if you were going to charge something like, I don't know, $650 or whatever for a day, and then you find out this American dude is charging $850, and they're basically giving it to him hands down like it's a nothing price. Very quickly, as a Canadian, you go, well, then I should charge $850.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. If
Mine's $850 American.
Exactly.
There you
And then
go.
you get the return back. So I think there's a lot more like...
Multiply that times, add an additional 24%, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And one general piece of advice, never get a job by charging less than someone else. Never, because it may sound, even if you're happy with that amount of money, it will come around and it'll come and bite you, because someone else is going to do it. You're going to find that one person that doesn't need the money and is going to do it for free.
Yep.
I've done that to spite someone back in Greece once. So, yeah, and I feel very proud about it.
Yeah.
Because they were undercutting me all the time.
Oh, knows, man. Every adventure with you is fun.
And don't take a lot of jobs for low money. That's where burnout happens. Take fewer jobs for better money, and keep risking. That's the thing. It's like gambling. Like, I hate to say it, but it is. Every job should be a gamble. Every single time you get a new one, just like up it a little and see like where the pushback is, because you can always go back, but you can't ever go up again. So just like always just try to push it.
Yeah. And on that note, let's go ahead and end this podcast. I want to thank all y'all for coming out for the DAT Toronto show. Thank you so much. We will, thank you. There's some more food, and then for those who don't have drink tickets, come and find me. But on that note,
Where's the after party at?
oh shoot, where was it?
I was thinking the Imperial Pub, unless somebody's got a better idea. I don't know.
Imperial Pub? Yeah.
Anybody?
We'll hang out here for a while, and then we'll go over to the Imperial Pub. That sounds good.
I won't be around. Find me, NosemanGR. DM me if you have any questions. I love you all.
I didn't understand a word you just said.
Exactly. I said.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks for everyone for watching. Let's get out of here. I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris.
And this is DAT. See y'all later. Thank you so much, everyone. Y'all are the best. If anyone needs tickets, come and find me.